Frankie was a little older and Johnny was 17. Frankie was the most beautiful man Johnny'd ever seen. Frankie said, come on over, we'll play in the field beside my house. They set out after supper and they wasn't seen for hours. Frankie said, I dare you to kiss me on the mouth. And Johnny took the chance that he'd only dreamed about. But Johnny's selling cars now and Frankie's in the bars again. So Frankie and Johnny were known all around the town, holding hands and kissing every time they came around. Frankie said, I love you, Johnny, I'll always be your man. You know, no matter what, I'll be there in the end. And Johnny said, I trust you, and the town just heaved a sigh, 'cause we knew Frankie was in the bars every night looking for another guy. Johnny's selling cars now, and Frankie's in the bars again. Well, Johnny was on the football team, a queer in shoulder pads, watching us back in the locker room where the jocks would kick his ass. But Johnny never told, and Johnny never cried, but sometimes he hurt so bad he wanted just to die. So Frankie wasn't perfect, but Frankie held him close, and nothing else seemed to matter once they took off all their clothes. Johnny's selling cars now and Frankie's in the bars again. Well, Frankie'd been the black sheep ever since he'd learned to walk. His daddy was a drunkard and mommy treated him like a dog. So he hung out by the railroad tracks with the hobos getting high, doing a trick for a quarter bag, looking for Mr. Ride. Always avoided playgrounds, 'cause they seemed to make him cry. You know, since that night with Uncle Marty, he'd never been a child. But Johnny's selling cars now, and Frankie's in the bars again. After graduation, the boys, they found a place. Johnny finally found happiness, you could read it on his face. But Frankie was getting moodier than he'd ever been before. Some nights Johnny find him crying in a ball down on the floor. He'd disappear for days on end and he'd never send a word. And Johnny'd sit at home contemplating what all this pain was for. But Johnny's selling cars now and Frankie's in the bars again. Well, Johnny made his mind up. At last he took a stand. I saw him there at the end of the bar, his suitcase in his hand. Johnny said, I love him so much, my heart wants to explode. But it's time I thought of me for a change, I guess I'll have to go. Penniless and broken, he had no place to hide. So I took him in my arms and I carried him inside. Johnny's selling cars now and Frankie's in the bars again. I opened up a book of poetry and I handed him a drink. He laughed, it's like a Bob Dylan song from the 70s, I think. It didn't matter to either of us where Frankie was that night, until the door was broken in and the boys began to fight. Frankie pulled a gun out and he fired into the air. I've never seen the look in his eyes in anybody anywhere. Johnny's selling cars now and Frankie's in the bars again. Well, Frankie started crying and Johnny took his hand. This can't go on, he said, and I know you understand that Frankie, you're the only man that I never will forget. But it's time that I moved on before it all ends up in death. Frankie, he just nodded and dropped the pistol to the floor. He said, I know you're right, so I'll try not to love you anymore. But Johnny's selling cars now, and Frankie's in the bars again. Well, Johnny didn't need me, so he moved out on his own. But I think of him a lot now and the courage that he showed. But Frankie never learned it all, and he still ain't seen the light. Never happy with himself, never glad to be alive. Johnny's got a good man and they live on the edge of town. Frankie lives neath the railroad tracks, blowing gypsies, thieves, and clowns. But Johnny's selling cars now, and Frankie's in the bars again. Johnny's selling cars now, and Frankie's in the bars again. Johnny's selling cars now, and Frankie's in the bars again.